Every month, laughter echoed through my sister's house while I sat alone, watching friends gather to celebrate their accomplishments. This month, the last straw came when I saw pictures of a lavish dinner, featuring dishes I had never had the chance to try. When I opened the family group chat, there was a message applauding her promotion, but nothing about me, someone who worked day and night for a better future. The injustice throbbed in my chest, and the feeling of betrayal became unbearable. My name is Leticia. I too deserve to be celebrated. I needed to do something about it. As the house settled down for the night with the gentle sound of rain tapping against the window, I sat at the kitchen table, a place that had always been the heart of our family. Looking at the utensils Clara used to prepare dinners, I felt a wave of frustration wash over me. It was as if each bite Sophia received was a reminder that, in everyone's eyes, I was invisible. The thought of confronting the family friends made me nervous, but the urgency to express how I felt outweighed my fear. I needed them to understand that I had worth too, that my achievements deserved recognition. The next morning, I decided I wouldn't stay silent any longer. I looked at Sophia, who was at the table, soaking up the attention and the compliments she always received. She was the star, and I was the shadow. But that day, something shifted inside me. It was no longer just about being seen. It was about asserting who I really was. When Clara walked into the kitchen, I gathered my courage and said, "Mom, I need to talk to you about something important." Clara looked at me with curiosity, and I felt it was the right moment to share my pain. "Why do we always have to celebrate Sophia? I've accomplished something significant this month too," I said, trying not to let my emotions take over my voice. Clara listened intently, her expression a mix of surprise and understanding. She knew I was struggling, but she had never grasped the depth of my frustration. "Leticia, I didn't know you felt this way," she said sincerely, and it made me feel a little lighter. It was a start, and I needed support, especially from the person who had always encouraged me to be strong. After that conversation, the idea of confronting the family friends didn't seem so frightening anymore. I called Andre, who had always been my safe harbor, and explained how I felt. "You have to do this, Leticia. Don't let them silence you," he encouraged. His words gave me a renewed sense of determination. I wanted to feel free, without the weight of comparisons holding me back. During our conversation, I began to visualize what the dinner night would be like. Me, finally expressing myself, showing everyone what truly mattered to me. As the preparations for Sophia's dinner began, I grew anxious. I knew the atmosphere would be filled with laughter and toasts, but my heart raced with the expectation that, finally, my voice would be heard. That night, the table was adorned with flowers, and I realized that, even with all the glamour surrounding me, the true beauty wasn't in the flowers or the exquisite food, but in the authenticity of our relationships. Each guest arrived bringing vibrant energy and a focus that seemed perpetually directed toward Sophia. However, as I watched them, I realized I needed to step up. When it came time for speeches, I felt my heart racing. I stood up slowly, facing all the smiling faces, and for a moment, fear almost paralyzed me. But I couldn't back down. "I'd like to say a few words," I declared, trying to sound confident. The murmur of conversation stopped, and all eyes turned to me. I swallowed hard and continued. "I know we're celebrating Sophia today, and she truly deserves all the recognition. But I also want everyone to know that I've accomplished something important recently." The room fell silent, and I could feel the tension rising. I got promoted at work, and that's something I've worked hard for. I'm part of this family too, and I also need support and celebration. Reactions were mixed. Some looked surprised, while others seemed to try to grasp what I was conveying. Sophia looked at me with a mix of shock and understanding. Clara gazed at me with pride, and that gave me more courage. I want all of us to support each other, not just in moments of greatness, but in all our victories, big or small, I continued, now feeling more at ease. After my speech, a silence lingered in the room, and then I heard Andre break the tension with enthusiastic applause. "That's what I call speaking the truth," he exclaimed, and soon others began to clap as well. Even Sophia, though surprised, joined in the applause, and I could see something change in her gaze. Right then, in that moment, we were no longer just sisters in competition, but two women seeking to be recognized and loved. The night flowed with a different energy. Conversations began to flow more authentically, and words of support started to emerge. One of Eduardo's friends turned to me and said, "I'm sorry for not recognizing your achievements before, Letitia. You deserve to be celebrated just like anyone else." I felt a warmth in my heart. The words I had longed to hear were finally being spoken. From that moment on, the dynamic in the room shifted. Sophia joined me, and instead of competing, we started sharing our stories and accomplishments. The dinner transformed into a true mutual support event where everyone's victories were celebrated. In that accepting atmosphere, I realized that my voice had power. My struggle for recognition wasn't just about me, it was about creating a space where everyone could be seen and valued. When the night finally came to an end, I left the house with a smile on my face. I had done more than assert myself. I had opened a path for all of us as a family to be celebrated for who we truly were. The shadow that had followed me for so long seemed to have dissipated, and I was ready to embrace my place in the sun. As I left the house, a sense of lightness enveloped me. The cool night air wrapped around me like a hug, and the gentle breeze seemed to whisper that everything was about to change. The path home was familiar, but that night it felt like it had gained new meaning. Each step I took was a reminder that I had finally asserted myself, that my voice had been heard. Upon entering, the silence of the house contrasted with the celebration I had just left behind. The soft light of the living room illuminated the space, and I noticed that Sophia was already asleep, oblivious to the emotional turmoil I had faced. In the early hours, as thoughts danced in my mind, I found myself reflecting on everything that had happened. It was as if a new perspective had been revealed. Until then, I had always seen Sophia as the shining star of our family, the one who drew all the attention. But now I realized I had my own shine, that I didn't need to compete with her. What I had done that night wasn't just for me, it was also for her to understand that love and admiration within the family aren't limited. With this newfound understanding, I felt lighter, as if the weight of comparison had been lifted from my shoulders. The next morning, I decided it was time for an open conversation with Clara. I knew she had always been a source of support, and my heart longed for her wisdom. As I walked into the kitchen, I found my mom preparing breakfast, the smell of fresh bread filling the air. Clara looked at me, her eyes reflecting a mix of love and curiosity. "How are you feeling, my daughter?" she asked, placing a slice of bread on my plate. "I feel like I finally understand myself better," I replied, trying to articulate all the emotions that were surfacing. "Last night, I realized I don't have to be less for Sophia to be more. The love between us can be shared, and I don't have to set aside my achievements." Clara smiled, and a look of pride illuminated her face. "You've always been strong, Letitia. It's important that you remember that," she said, encouraging me to keep going. After a long venting session, where I expressed my insecurities and feelings of rivalry, I felt like I had released a heavy burden. Clara had always known I struggled with comparison, but I had never had the courage to bring it up. "You need to talk to Sophia about this. Sometimes people don't realize the impact they can have," she suggested. The thought of opening my heart to my sister made me nervous, but I knew that if I wanted to heal what was wounded, this was a necessary conversation. The day passed slowly, with the sun shining brightly in the sky. While at work, my mind wandered between tasks, focusing on the idea of opening up to Sophia. The thought of revealing my feelings to her made me anxious, but I also knew it could be liberating. When I finally got home, I found Sophia sitting on the couch, looking like she had just woken up. It was the perfect opportunity. "Can I talk to you for a moment?" I asked, trying to hide the anxiety in my voice. She nodded, a bit confused, but willing to listen. We sat down together, and the words began to flow. I explained how I felt about our dynamic and how I often felt overshadowed by her accomplishments. As I spoke, I noticed Sophia's expression change. She didn't seem defensive, but intrigued and a bit sad. "I never wanted you to feel this way," she said sincerely. "I've always admired your determination and the things you achieve, but I never realized how much it affected you. I was so focused on myself that I didn't see how it hurt you." The conversation unfolded into an honest dialogue where we finally understood each other. I realized Sophia also struggled with her own insecurities and that the pressure to be perfect made her anxious. The exchange of feelings brought a renewed connection between us, and by the end, we hugged, feeling like we had overcome a significant hurdle in our relationship. This experience not only strengthened our bond, but also opened space for a new type of affection and mutual support. In the days that followed, we began making a conscious effort to celebrate not just Sophia's accomplishments, but mine as well. Clara and Eduardo joined in, and soon, our family dinners became moments of shared praise and celebration. It was wonderful to see how the dynamic in our home was changing, allowing each person to have their space. I finally felt valued, and this brought me a joy I hadn't experienced in a long time. Over time, my friendship with Andre also evolved. He had always been my confidant, but now I felt I could share not only my insecurities, but also my victories. He supported me in everything, encouraging me to be even more authentic. One night, as we walked through the park, he remarked on how he had always thought I had a strong spirit and that I should never let comparisons bring me down. His words touched me deeply, and I realized that the changes occurring in my life were also influencing my relationships outside of home. Amid all these transformations, I was finally living the life I had always dreamed of, where I could be myself, with all my imperfections and achievements. Each day became a new opportunity for growth, and the light I had found within myself now shone brighter than ever. My heart was open, and I was ready to embrace everything life had to offer. The journey of self-discovery didn't end there, but now, with the support of my family and friends, I knew I had the strength to face any challenge that lay ahead. If you relate to the struggle for validation and self-awareness, don't hesitate to subscribe and follow along on this journey. Let's explore together the power of authenticity and the beauty of family relationships. Determined not to let the situation repeat itself, I prepared for the dinner at our friend's house. The invitation had arrived days earlier, and the excitement surrounding Sophia's celebration seemed to have taken over everyone, including my mom and dad, who were thrilled. Clara, noticing my closed-off expression, insisted I should go, suggesting it could be a good opportunity to discuss what was bothering me. However, I knew my voice was still choked, struggling to find a way to be heard amid the shine and glamour surrounding Sophia. Andre, my best friend, noticed my anxiety and insisted on accompanying me. He always had an incredible ability to make me feel more confident, and just his presence brought some relief for what was to come. As we approached the house, the loud music and laughter echoed from within, heightening my nerves. The aroma of dinner, mixed with the sense of the extravagant perfumes worn by the moms getting ready for the event. At first glance, the scene seemed perfect, but I knew that behind the lights and smiles, there was an open wound within me that needed healing. We were welcomed by some of the family friends, all cheerful and fun, but I couldn't ignore what was happening inside me. As soon as I entered, I spotted Sophia in the center of the room, surrounded by people admiring her, her radiant smile lighting up the space. The scene was familiar, yet incredibly painful. Andre gently pulled me to a quieter corner of the room. You can do this, Letitia. Just talk to her, to everyone. Don't let them silence you again, he said, with an encouraging glance that made me feel a bit stronger. I knew he was right. It was time not just to express my discontent, but to seek a sincere dialogue that could perhaps change the dynamic between us. I took a deep breath, trying to gather courage before approaching Sophia. Before I could reach her, Clara appeared by my side, bringing a tray of snacks. "Are you okay, dear?" she asked, concern etched on her face. I smiled, but my expression couldn't completely hide the storm brewing inside me. With a gentle touch on my shoulder, Clara encouraged me to proceed. Moving toward Sophia, I noticed some people stepped aside, allowing me a moment alone with my sister. The sparkle in her eyes didn't dim when she saw me, but I couldn't let the beauty of the moment distract me. "Sophia, we need to talk," I began, my voice a bit firmer than I expected. She hesitated, perhaps surprised by my direct approach, but nodded in agreement. "Sure, Leticia, what's going on?" she replied, holding my gaze with curiosity. I tried to articulate each word clearly. "You know I've always been here for you, but I feel like something is off with how everyone celebrates you every month, while I, for example, I'm not acknowledged for my accomplishments. My promotion at work should be celebrated too. I feel forgotten." The atmosphere around us seemed to silence, while a few people paid attention to our conversation. Sophia frowned, looking upset but not defensive. "I didn't know you felt that way. It was never my intention to leave you out," she said, looking at me with a mix of confusion and empathy. The conversation wasn't easy, but sincerity finally blossomed between us. "I also wanted you to be more present when I needed support, you know? Sometimes it feels like everyone prefers to talk about you instead of me," I continued, feeling tears welling in my eyes. "That doesn't mean I don't care about you, Letitia," Sophia replied, her tone softer, as if the realization was dawning on her. "I just didn't realize how it affected you. Let's try to change this." A wave of relief washed over me at her words. The promise of dialogue and change gave me a glimmer of hope. As we stepped away to continue the party, the atmosphere seemed to relax. My conversation with Sophia had been a turning point. However, things were still not resolved. I knew I would need to reinforce my presence and, above all, the importance of valuing each of us as unique individuals. Andre appeared at my side, looking proud. "See, you did it," he exclaimed, as if I had achieved a great victory. My shoulders relaxed a bit, and the confidence I needed began to bloom. It wasn't just about being seen, it was about recognizing that we all have our own paths and struggles, and each achievement deserves to be celebrated. As the night unfolded, I realized that the focus on Sophia's beauty could be balanced with my own light. As the party progressed, once again, the idea of celebration wasn't just about one individual, but the unity of all of us. The sound of laughter and conversation filled the air as Andre and I enjoyed ourselves, reflecting on what had happened. It was a new phase, a new dynamic beginning to form between me and my sister. I was ready to explore this relationship more and ensure that our family valued each of us, creating a space where everyone could shine in their own essence. When I got home that night, a wave of determination washed over me. I knew that my conversation with Andre had been just the first step, and it was time to take action. The lights in the living room were on, and Clara was in the kitchen preparing something, the smell of tomato sauce filling the air. For a moment, I hesitated to enter, but the need to be heard outweighed any doubts I had. The kitchen had always been the heart of our home, and there, among pots and utensils, I would find a safe space to express what I felt. "Mom, do you have a minute?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Clara turned, surprised but with a welcoming smile, and gestured for me to come closer. "Of course, my love. What's going on?" The way she looked at me, as if she was ready to listen to everything, gave me courage. I need to talk about Sophia and how things have been." Clara's expression changed, and she stepped a little closer, as if she wanted to envelop me in a hug even before I began. I feel like there's always more attention on Sophia, as if my accomplishments don't matter. And it's not just that. I feel like I'm not seen. Last month's dinner was just another demonstration of that. The words spilled out of me in a torrent, as if I was opening a floodgate that had been closed for too long. Clara listened in silence, her eyes filled with understanding. Letitia, I had no idea how you felt. It was never my intention to make you feel this way, she replied, her voice soft yet firm. I told her about the promotion I had been eagerly awaiting, how hard I had worked to achieve it, and how, despite that, it seemed everyone was more interested in Sophia's accomplishments. Clara nodded, encouraging me to continue. I just want us all to be recognized for what we do. We're a family, and everyone has their place. But it often feels like there's a competition, as if one shine overshadows the other, I vented. And upon hearing those words, I realized how true they were. Clara took a deep breath. You know I've always loved each of you for who you are, right? Sophia might be more outgoing, but that doesn't mean you're any less important. Sometimes we need to remind each other about our victories, big or small. Her words resonated within me like an echo of hope. Maybe it's time for a family talk, a dinner where we can all share our stories. What do you think? Clara's idea made me feel a thrill in my stomach, but also a sense of relief. Yes, I would love that, I replied, a shy smile beginning to emerge. Clara smiled back, and with that, she started organizing a plan for the dinner that would change the dynamic of our family. It was the perfect opportunity for each of us to shine. As we discussed how to invite Eduardo and Sophia, my heart filled with anticipation. This wasn't just a dinner. It was a chance to redefine what being a family meant to us. After our conversation, I went to my room, where I could reflect on everything that had happened. The idea of a family dinner kept ringing in my head, and I knew I needed to prepare for that moment. The thought of seeing Sophia sitting at the table, knowing I would have the chance to open up to her, made me nervous but also excited. What if she didn't understand? What if it ended in another fight? But there was something inside me that said I had to try, that I couldn't let insecurity stop me from seeking the connection I so desperately wanted. On the day of the dinner, the living room was beautifully decorated. Clara had set a simple but lovely table, with candles casting a soft and inviting light. Eduardo came home with a smile, bringing flowers for Clara. These are for the best cook in the world, he said. And I could see the sparkle in my mom's eyes. The mood felt perfect, and the positive energy spread throughout the space. Sophia arrived shortly after, radiant as always. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun that highlighted her beauty even more. She greeted everyone with warm hugs and laughter, and I wondered if she had any idea what I was about to do. During dinner, the conversations were light, and I felt it was the right moment to address what truly mattered. I'd like to talk about something that has been bothering me for a while, I started, trying to keep my voice steady. All eyes turned to me, and my heart raced. I feel like sometimes things revolve around Sophia, and I'd like to have space to share my achievements and feelings too. I love you all very much, but I need you to know how I feel. The silence in the room was palpable. Sophia's expression changed, and I realized she was truly paying attention. I didn't know you felt this way, Leticia, Sophia replied, looking surprised. If I offended you, it was never my intention. The sincerity in her voice touched me. I never wanted you to feel less important. I've always admired your achievements, but maybe I haven't shown that. The tension in the air began to dissipate, and a new understanding emerged between us. Clara and Eduardo exchanged glances, recognizing the change in atmosphere. What had started as a venting session turned into an opening for a deeper conversation. We began to share our stories, our challenges, and our victories. With each word, barriers seemed to dissolve, and I realized that perhaps I wasn't as alone as I thought. Family is, after all, a reflection of the complexities of love and support. The soft light from the dinner illuminated each face around the table, but it was Sophia who shone the brightest. I noticed her presence overshadowed even the beauty of the dish Clara had prepared with so much care. The aroma of roasted chicken mixed with fresh herbs filled the air, but none of it seemed to matter. As everyone talked about Sophia's college plans, my heart tightened, a growing knot I couldn't untangle. Andrea looked at me with a knowing glance, as if he understood what was going through my mind, but I could hardly face the approving expression on my dad's face. He was so proud of Sophia, almost as if I wasn't there. The conversation flowed naturally, but every compliment directed at Sophia felt like a stab, a reminder of the invisibility I felt. The table was filled with laughter and enthusiasm, and I wondered how it would feel if I could be part of that genuine joy. After a while, I could take it no longer and stood up, asking for a moment. "I'm going to get something to drink," I said, trying not to let my frustration show. However, as I passed through the kitchen door, I took a deep breath, trying to gather courage. I knew I needed to speak up, but the fear of being misunderstood still haunted me. When I returned, I found André on the porch smoking a cigarette. The smell of tobacco mingled with the coolness of the night, and he looked at me with a mix of concern and encouragement. "Are you okay?" he asked, and his words felt like a confirmation that I wasn't alone in this battle. "I don't know, André," I replied. "I feel like everything I do is in vain. No one seems to notice what I achieve." He lit the match, and before the flame went out, I decided it was time to open my heart. "I'm tired of living in her shadow." André, with his usual calm, listened attentively, his gaze fixed on mine, as if he wanted to convey some certainty. "You're amazing, Letitia. Don't forget that. Sometimes people focus on who shines more, but that doesn't diminish your worth." His words resonated within me, and for a moment the urge to vent filled me. "Do you think I should tell them how I feel?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Yes. And when you do, remember that you are part of this family too, with your own achievements and struggles." I decided it was time to act. I returned to the living room, where the conversation about Sophia's plans continued at full speed. "Can I speak?" I interrupted, and the murmur instantly hushed. All eyes turned to me, and the tension in the air became palpable. I want to say that while everyone talks about Sophia, I can't help but feel invisible. I also have important things happening in my life. The words poured out in a rush, propelled by a mix of relief and fear. Sophia, surprised, looked at me with a confused expression. "Letitia, I didn't know you felt this way. It was never my intention." Her response was sincere, but the intensity of the emotion in the room had already changed. Clara immediately stood up, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. "My love, you've always been a source of pride for me. Your promotion is an incredible achievement, and I should have talked more about it." Eduardo, in turn, nodded, his eyes filled with emotion. "You're a leader, Leticia. I have great respect for your work." At that moment, I realized that what I had done by opening up wasn't just about me. It was about the dynamic that had formed between us, a web of love and support that needed to be rewritten. What had once seemed like an endless cycle of comparisons and silences was now becoming an opportunity for renewal. Of course, there was still much to resolve, but the conversation that followed was filled with promises. Clara shared her own insecurities from when she was younger, and Eduardo recalled how he felt trying to balance professional and personal expectations. After that dinner, the atmosphere at home changed. From then on, we began to prioritize moments where each person could share their victories and challenges. Over time, I realized that it wasn't just the quest for recognition that drove me, but the need to be heard and supported. Sophia began to open up more about my experiences, and that brought us closer. The comparisons that had once separated us began to give way to mutual respect and admiration for each other's achievements. I remember one night in particular, a few weeks after that conversation, when we organized a family game night. Clara made popcorn, and the house filled with laughter as we played, discussing strategies and telling jokes. I looked at Sophia, who was having such a good time, and realized that the competition I once felt was transforming into genuine support. After the game, we all sat in the living room, exhausted but happy. Sophia turned to me and said, "Let's do this more often, Leticia. I really enjoy spending time with you." What I learned that night stayed with me for a long time. Open dialogue not only helped us deal with family issues, but it also strengthened me. I realized that by sharing my feelings, I wasn't just seeking support, but also building a bridge that would unite us. After all, the true strength of a family lies in the capacity to listen to and understand one another, regardless of the shadows that may exist. If you've ever gone through something similar, know that you're not alone. It's essential to talk about how we feel, and everyone has their own story to share. Let's continue this conversation where everyone can find their space and be valued for who they truly are. Each person's journey is important, and together we can learn to shine in our own lights.